Coming up on Kentucky Outlook, the Battle of the Bulge, how the desperate search to shed pounds takes some down the surgical path. We're going to meet a weight loss surgeon and a surgical weight loss success story. And later in the program, we continue our dollars and cents of Kentucky tourism as we share the chair with the Commissioner of Kentucky State Parks, Elaine Walker. Stay tuned. Kentucky Outlook is next. The program is Kentucky Outlook. I'm your host, Barbara Deeb, and for the next half hour, we're going to enlighten you, inform you, and we hope educate you as well. You know, and I've got a news flash for you in case you didn't realize America has an obesity problem. As the nation wages the battle of the bulge, celebrities and politicians alike are making headlines when they admit that they had eating disorders or they're taken to some kind of drastic surgical measure to shed pounds. Well, most recently in the news, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie disclosed that he had undergone surgical band surgery to get what he said was healthy for his family. In some instances, overweight individuals resort to more drastic surgical measures. We're going to talk about it as we welcome to the program two people in the know, in the trenches. Meet, if you will, Beth Ray. Beth Ray is a success story. About a year ago, she weighed 110 pounds more. Beth, yes. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
In addition, and I'm not going to slaughter your name, I promise, I'm going to say it correctly, Dr. O. Rafael Wanguma, and he is a weight loss surgeon with Bluegrass Bariatric Surgical Association. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Before we get started, we said America has an obesity problem. You look around and chances are good you'll see one or two obese people. But how do we define obese? What's the standard when someone is certifiably obese?
Obesity is defined as a disease of excess fat storage. It sometimes is inherited, sometimes it's as a result of the environment that we live in, and it can become a problem as that fat storage reaches a point. The way that we measure it is what we call the body mass index.
The BMI. That's
correct. It takes into account the patient's weight and the patient's height. There's a number attached to it, and we in the field can determine based on those numbers of the BMI if someone is overweight, obese, or something like that.
So, because you can't do a standard, you know, somebody might weigh a certain amount, but they might be 6 foot tall and have a larger body frame. So the BMI is the indicator that you use.
That is true.
Okay, so at what point then, at what percentage does somebody then become?
Exactly. Your BMI over 30 is considered obese. And anything over 40, over 30 will be at the point where a person might begin to show some bad effects as a result of the excess fat.
Okay, bad effects.
Yes.
Not only the emotional and social bad effects, which Beth, I'm sure in a minute here you'll share with us, but also physically, high blood pressure,
heart disease, diabetes, sleep apnea, reflux, some other diseases like arthritis, in some women, infertility, and there's evidence that they also increase risk of some cancers with increased weight gain.
There you go. We're going to talk more about that. Now, we mentioned Chris Christie, the governor of New Jersey.
Yes.
He had a surgical band.
Yes.
When I was talking to Beth before we got started, and she's going to share her experience, she had a surgical sleeve.
Yes.
So how many different operations are there?
There are many operations, as many as 6. However, the most common ones now that are performed are 3, which is the gastric bypass, the adjustable gastric band, and the sleeve gastrectomy.
Okay, since you gave us a nice segue to the sleeve gastrectomy, I can't say it, but we'll just call it the sleeve. Right. Beth, share your story.
Yes, I had the gastric sleeve procedure a little over a year ago. I had been on this roller coaster ride ever since I was in grade school. My weight goes up, my weight goes down, this losing and gaining. It got to a point where My top weight was 245 pounds.
And you're about how tall?
I'm 5'4".
Oh.
So yes, and I was starting to have the health issues that he just mentioned. I had high blood pressure. My sugar was starting to creep up. My knees were hurting, just all due to the excess weight. And so I finally got to that point that I just decided I needed to do something a little more permanent, a little more, if you want to call it drastic, besides the diets and other gimmicks out there. For
Because I
losing
mean,
weight.
that's a huge decision to make.
It is.
So
It
you
is.
probably did a little bit of homework, and like he said,
I
there are
did
different
a lot
procedures.
of homework.
A lot
Yeah,
of homework?
I did a lot of reading up on actually all the procedures that were available, and I just decided that the gastric sleeve was the right procedure for me.
Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about that, and we should point out that the doctor that you see here was not the one who performed. It was your predecessor, Dr. Oldham. He's gone. You came in. But so you decided the sleeve was the right way to go. You did your homework. Now, you have to be assessed, right? She might think the sleeve is the way to go, but
That is
options,
true.
right?
Right. We always try to educate patients. We have seminars. Patients can get information on some websites, and they can talk to other patients that have had similar procedures. So there's many places that they can go to get information, and they can then see us in the office, and we can once again try to educate them, and the patient can then have all the information he or she needs to decide which procedure is best for him or her.
Yes, so you decided that was right for you.
Yes.
You're a young woman, you're in your 40s, you weigh 230 pounds, you're miserable. You decide you're going to do it.
Yes.
So this is not just I'm just going to do this. You have kids, you have a husband, you have a family, you have a job.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot to consider.
There's a lot to consider, correct. And I have a very supportive husband. So he was a little bit leery at first, but after he researched it with me, then he was behind me 100%.
Okay, so the sleeve procedure that she had that a year ago is very non-intrusive in many ways. It's laparoscopic.
Well, yes, most of the procedures in bariatric surgery is done minimally invasive in today's medicine. It's, however, externally minimally invasive, but internally it's still a major surgery. You have to make sure that the patient is medically fit to undergo such procedures, because there's a risk of anesthesia, there's a risk of the surgery itself. However, it is done laparoscopically.
So 4 incisions. You had some additional surgery not related necessarily to the sleeve. So 4 incisions and a drain.
And a drain, yes. Very, very tiny incisions, I mean less than an inch.
Okay,
Right.
so did you immediately start losing weight? How'd that work?
Actually, leading up to the surgery, 2 weeks prior to the surgery, they had us start a liquid protein diet. So just in that 2-week span, I lost 15 pounds. But then after the surgery, yet the weight steadily started coming off, 5 to 6 pounds a week initially, and a little bit more some weeks, a little less some weeks. But
Just because you can't eat as
Yeah.
much.
Right.
In essence, you're making the stomach smaller? Or
Sure,
what?
yes. Most of the procedure we do, it's either making the stomach smaller and or adding some malabsorption, so that the end result is the patient eats less, and if there's a bypass, then the absorption is also decreased. So the end result is absorption of the fewest amount of calories. And it's hard to predict how a patient's weight loss is going to be. It's
There's really no way to tell.
there's no way to predict that. And what we do is we follow up regularly with our patients, and we can see if there's some type of plateauing on the weight loss, then we can make some adjustments.
Accordingly, we're going to take a short break here on Kentucky Outlook, but when we come back, we're going to see Beth's fat pants, and we're going to find out and remind you that it's not a tool, this weight loss surgery. We're going to find out more when Kentucky Outlook continues. Stay with us. Kentucky Outlook continues. I'm Barbara Deeb. On the program today, we've got 2 segments. We're talking about the drastic measures that people will go to lose weight, sometimes choosing surgery. And later in the show, we're going to be talking with Elaine Walker, the commissioner of Kentucky's parks. But before the break, we met Beth Ray, who lost, a year ago, she weighed a whole lot more, 110 pounds more. She had what they called the surgical sleeve, and you were sharing with us, doctor, that there are different options, but it would depend on the patient and what their desire is. You wanted to do something a little more permanent. You were tired of the roller coaster, but you pointed out to me the doctor who actually did your surgery, Dr. Oldham, who's no longer in this area, but he pointed out very, very appropriately, this is not a tool, that there's so much more to it.
This is not a cure.
Right.
It is just
It's
a tool. It is just a tool to help with your weight loss. You still have to eat correctly. You still have to exercise. It is just another tool to use to help you be a success in your weight loss journey.
That's really true. So, I mean, there's really so much more to this than just having the surgery, because you work out religiously.
Yes.
Because you have to.
Have to.
Show us your fat pants.
Okay. These were my favorite black stretchy pants when I weighed heavier. I no longer have to wear them, yay!
But you, 110 pounds a year ago. So you continue to work. Now, once she had this sleeve surgery, regular checkups, you were saying that the weight just started to drop off, but you've got to monitor the patient.
Yes,
is what you were
sometimes
telling me.
that weight drop-off can level off.
Like a plateau.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as we said, you did mention, we do give one a tool, but it's not a magic bullet. The success depends on how well the tool is used. The weight level off can be managed by either assessing how the patient is eating. Sometimes they may, when I mean they, I mean a patient may think that they're eating the right things, but on closer look, we'll find that they're not eating the right things, or they may be eating just too much because of this new body that they're trying to attain. So we will send them to see a dietitian. We may prescribe increased exercise. We may do different things to kick the weight loss up again.
Now, if she had the sleeve, we talked about Chris Christie and many others choosing
Sure.
to go with the band, where
Sure.
you tighten it around the stomach. What happened? And then, of course, some people do the bypass,
Yes.
which is even more drastic. What happens if they cheat? Okay, with the band or with the sleeve, and you decide, you know what, I'm going to pig out today. What
Right.
happens?
Well, for the bypass and the sleeve, it's difficult to cheat because the stomach that has been created it's small and it's almost rigid. So the patient will have severe abdominal pain. They will have nausea, and it will be difficult to cheat. But however, with time, if they continue to do that, they may be able to get away with the cheating and not have the bad effects. With the band, however, if it's appropriately set, the patient may not be able to cheat also. But if it's not set properly, the patient can cheat.
Okay, doing that way. Now, you said your recovery, you had the surgical sleeve. You chose to go back to work after 4 or 5 days. You would not recommend that?
I would not recommend that,
Okay.
no. That was a special situation where I felt like I needed to get back to work. But no, I do not recommend that. I recommend people take at least 1 to 2 weeks at a minimum to recover from their surgery. Just because, there is some tenderness, soreness. There is just the fact that you have such a decrease in calorie intake. You do feel like your energy is low. So there should be that a little bit more recovering time than what I took.
What would you say to people watching that maybe, have been battling the weight game all of their lives? They're morbidly obese or obese, and they're just sick and tired of it, and to the point where they're thinking about doing something drastic like surgery. What would you say?
For me, it was the best decision that I've made in a long time. I'm just so thrilled with my results. I'm thrilled with how people react to me now. I remember several years ago when a doctor first told me that I was morbidly obese, I cried. Because I
said those words.
Just saying those words and hearing them, I cried.
Were you did you eat all the time? Or
I was a big snacker, and then I didn't watch portion size. I would eat too much at one time. And but just hearing those words, it just really resonated. And then when I finally made that decision, it's like I'm gonna go for it, 100%, and do it or bust. So.
Well, and that attitude is hugely important, I suspect, Doc. Wouldn't it be? Because you got to be all in.
That is correct. You have to be dedicated. You have to work to get there. As we said, it's a tool, not a magic bullet. There are things out there that set up to help the patient succeed, but it just doesn't come easy. But with dedication and with the follow-up, which is what we have, and I think it's like that across the country in all the bariatric surgery practices, there is frequent follow-ups, and if the patient follows up and is committed to success, there is no reason why they
not
shouldn't.
to succeed.
Right.
Well, according to the CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, more than 1/3 of Americans are considered obese. Do you think this trend is going to be continuing, where more people are just going to give up and turn to surgical means to lose weight?
Well, it's known that since the decades of the 1990s, the country has continuously become more obese. The percentage of people in each society has increasingly become more obese. So without any type of intervention or some type of adjustment in our lifestyle, obesity is likely to continue. It's surgical weight loss the answer? I really don't know, but I know that we help people out. Most of the patients that gone through the surgical weight loss and follow-up are successful.
So people just need to assess what works best for them. Leave us with some words of wisdom, Beth Ray, who 1 year ago today, there would have been a lot more of you here, 110 pounds more.
Just if you are considering having a procedure done, talk to someone who has already had it. Get their experience, their advice. I love talking to people about the procedure I had, and I've talked to several. And that's my advice. If you're thinking about it, talk to someone who has already had it.
It could change your life.
Exactly.
It could change your life. We've been talking with Beth Ray, who is a success story of a surgical weight loss issue. I'll call it an issue. In addition, Dr. O. Rafael Wanguma, who is with Bluegrass Bariatric Surgical Association. Thank you so much for sharing that information. Don't go away. Kentucky Outlook continues, and when we come back, we're going to continue our discussion of the dollars and cents of Kentucky tourism with the Commissioner of Kentucky State Parks, Elaine Walker. Stay here. Kentucky Outlook continues. We're doing a series taking a look at the dollars and cents of Kentucky tourism, and we are very delighted to have with us Kentucky's Parks Commissioner, Elaine Walker. Now, if you're watching this show, you look at her and you go, I know her. She used to be the mayor of Bowling Green. Indeed, you've done a lot of wonderful things, but we're happy, and I think you're very happy in your new position.
I love this job. I tell you, I love being mayor, but there are a few things more fabulous than being able to go to any of our 49 parks and to see the incredible scenery that we've got, lakes and mountains and trails, and it's just a lot of fun.
We were talking a little bit earlier about what a beautiful state Kentucky is indeed. Let's talk about state parks. They break them down into different kinds, right? There are recreation parks, we've got history parks, and then resort parks?
We actually have the greatest number of resort parks of any state park system. We've got 17. We've got 21 recreation parks and 11 historic sites. And so we run the gamut. Now, we've got some that are kind of hybrid. For example, my old Kentucky home has campgrounds. We've got the historic home, which was the Stephen Foster story is based around the home. And then we've got a golf course there. And then we've got, at General Butler, we've got the Butler Turpin House. So we've got a resort park because it's got a lodge, and then we've got an historic home. So we've kind of got a mixture. But I have been to all 49. The first 7 months,
oh, wow.
I went to all 49, and we figured I put about 7,100 miles on the car. But it was a fabulous opportunity to not only get out and see those parks, but to also meet the men and women who have served our parks for, some of them, dozens of years, and they really take pride in their parks, and they're very dedicated to welcoming you.
I suspect there's a competition too between the parks, right?
Yes,
our park is better than your park.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you look at the numbers, I mean, we have 16 golf courses, we've got 24 swimming pools, 240 miles of trails, we've got 2,600 campsites and 31 campgrounds. it's just a huge organization, and we've got about 900 employees full-time, and then that swells, about doubles during the summer, and we're about to come up on that summer season. And you know, whether you like to camp, whether you like to hike, whether you like to be on the water, we have a great park for that.
She says there's something for everyone. Let's talk now about the dollars and cents, because last week we talked a little bit about tourism just in this region, but when you take the whole Kentucky State Park system, which contributes, of course, to the regional beauty, what are we talking about bringing in when we talk about dollars?
If you look at the economic impact, I believe in 2011 we estimated about an $840 million impact of our state park system. Now you look at what we receive from the general fund, we receive roughly 28 million. We generate about 50 million, so it's almost an $80 million operation. But for every dollar we take in, we generate $1.70. And so we're looking at, because of the downturn in the economy, we're looking at doing things a little bit more effectively. We're looking at public-private partnerships. For example, we had a great partner this past year with one of the classes. Professor Kelly Coppinger had her marketing class do a capstone project
at WKU
about the Kentucky State Park system. And these students are very creative, and they're looking at ways that we can present ourselves better and appeal to a younger audience and really get into some of the social media. And so we're very excited about incorporating a lot of that into our future programming.
So that's one way when you look at the dollars and cents and spending the budget a little bit more effectively, rather than having to let people go, which a lot of state parks across the country have had to do. You haven't had to look into that yet?
No, actually, if you look at some of our neighboring states, a lot of them had over 800 people, and they're now down to about 300, 350. And that's very difficult. Of course, we have a merit system, and so there's a pretty strong protection for our employees, but what we want to make sure is that we are really maximizing the facilities that we've got. We want to make sure that when people come to our parks, we are open. We've been able to keep all of our 49 parks open, and we're looking at maybe changing our operating hours a little bit in the future, but again, we are open year-round.
Just trying to be efficient. And what about the cost of going to a Kentucky State Park?
We are the best deal around, I can tell you. Whether you want to be in a beautiful CCC cottage in Pine Mountain, or if you want to be in one of our beautiful lodges that are on a lake or on the mountainside. Some of the off-season rates are as low as $40, $45. As a matter of fact, we just had a fishing rate for some of our cottages of $45. If you go onto our website, which is www.parks.ky.gov, you can see a lot of different specials, a lot of midweek specials, some weekend specials, and then we've got great off-season rates.
Do you, nice plug there, do you look at who's coming to the Kentucky State Parks? I mean, are you able to determine if these are in-state individuals who are actually using their state parks, or do we get a lot of people from around the country, around the world?
The majority of people do come from Kentucky, but we've got about 40% of the people who come from outside of the state, simply because of our huge resort system. We've got incredible opportunities with, for example, Cumberland Falls is the site of only two moonbows in the world, and that's at the peak moon, the full moon. You can see on a clear night, it looks like a rainbow, but it's at the falls and it's a moonbow. We've got Natural Bridge, we've got great, the Kentucky Dam Village and Lake Barkley and Ken Lake around that area, some beautiful destinations there. Breaks Interstate Park, which is Kentucky and Virginia, is known as the Grand Canyon of the South.
Now, people may not even realize that we have a Grand Canyon of the South. You know, people can go on the website, they can look it up, but social media is becoming the way to kind of let people know what's out there. So how has that changed the way you do business within the parks?
We are on Facebook and on Twitter, and again, a lot of people get their information through the internet. We're about to upgrade what we call our property management system, and that's making it a little bit more efficient for people to be able to go on the internet and make a reservation. But what's really fun is there was a Winter Adventure Weekend at Carter Caves. It's held at the end of every January. And all of the information goes out through the internet and through social media. And we had about 200 volunteers from 8 states. We had almost 400 people attending. Most of them were young families, a lot of 20-somethings, a lot of 30-somethings. And I never saw, except for one person, I never saw someone on a cell phone. They were just having a great time canoeing and kayaking and hiking and wild.
Enjoying the natural beauty.
Absolutely, outside and pink cheeks and
Now
hot
you can,
chocolate.
Well, we're talking cell phones. You can do cell phone tours?
You can, we have an app, a Kentucky State Park app. We're a little bit, we're working hard to make sure that all of our parks are accessible. And part of the challenge is that we don't want a lot of towers on our pristine park grounds, and so that means that it may be a little bit more challenging for you to get cell phone coverage, but we are working very hard to make sure that all of our lodge rooms have wireless Wi-Fi, and we're working on the cottages now too. So we're
There, you heard
moving
it.
forward.
Now I'm going to ask, you know, like you would ask a mother, which is her favorite child. You've been to more than 40 of Kentucky state parks. Do you have a favorite?
I don't have a favorite. When I go there, I just know that this one is, that at that point, that's my favorite. I mean, Carter Caves is probably the prettiest entrance into a park. If you go to Jenny Wiley, overlooking that river is fabulous. Lake Barkley, Kentucky Dam Village, Ken Lake, looking over the lake, the water, beautiful. Pine Mountain, my favorite little cabin, the old cabin with the wood hinges, the old
Authentic.
CCC.
Yeah.
Is just beautiful. So
A little something?
each one is special, and the people that work there will be very happy to tell you what's special about their park.
Oh, I bet they will. Give us that website again, if you will, Elaine.
It's www.parks.ky.gov.
Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing
Thank
this
you.
information. We've been talking with the Commissioner of Kentucky State Park System, Elaine Walker. That's going to wrap it up for this week's edition of Kentucky Outlook. I'm Barbara Deeb. We're glad you joined us.